This is our talk about the Cloud Object Storage Test Tools Provisional Working Group. My name's Adam Gray. I'm Principal Software Engineer at IBM Cloud Object Storage. I've been working on Object Storage S3 for 14 years now. That's pretty much been my entire career as an adult right now, real jobs with salaries, so I feel like I'm pretty intimately acquainted with it.
Great. Hi, this is Michael Hord, and I'm chair for the Cloud Storage Technology community, and so I'll get right into it. So we're working on Cloud Object Storage, otherwise known as COS, which is a popular way to share and retrieve data over web service interfaces like HTTP. So today we're going to focus on COS APIs like AWS S3, which is really the most popular and widely used API in the industry. So these concepts can also be applied to other COS APIs like Google Cloud Services or Azure Blob and others. So the primary area of focus we want to highlight is multi-vendor interoperability. For example, storage vendors implementing the AWS S3. So that's what we're going to narrow the focus right there. This is an area that really needs attention because up to now, third-party developers have not had an independent, vendor-neutral forum to gather together specifically for storage developers, and that's third-party folks. So, of course, here we are at Regional SDC, and we had our Plugfest for the last 2 days. There's still testing that's going on. We have some remote testing, and that's going to continue for a couple weeks to a month from now. So we're really pleased with the progress and the folks that came from overseas, and some of which are in the room. But the expertise we had was phenomenal. That was just great. So we feel we have the community. So that's established. So I want to be very clear that there's no issue with clients working directly with AWS services. So that's the statement to start out here. This works just fine. Since AWS S3 is a proprietary API, it's fully controlled and very well managed by AWS. So the area we're addressing is multi-vendor heterogeneous COS interoperability. So Frank and Jeff just had a report from the Plugfest. That was just before lunch. Excellent job with that. That reported on some of the bugs found, and but also just kind of how the anatomy of issues can arise from compatibility. And so we'll go into a little bit more detail here and on this talk. So in addition to the COS Plugfest, the SNIA Cloud community organized the formation of the SNIA COS test tool provisional twigs. That's a long string up there. But this effort is just beginning, and the intent is to develop test tools which will expedite and automate COS interoperability. So that's what we're looking for. So why would we do this? We are doing this because before, everyone was working independently and repeating the same investment in test. But they were working in silos, so there's really no sharing of data. So that's the before. And now that we can pool our resources as a group, we can also share test results under NDA between participating companies. And so, for example, yesterday during the Plugfest, we found a behavioral bug. And This impacted about 3 different products, and but this is an example where the group collaboration and us just being in the same room, normally it was explained, it could be weeks just to send an email to say, what is this? Or, how are you seeing this? And then more weeks to get a response. So this literally is running at speed, the fastest we can possibly get with helping the customer experience and then fast forwarding time to market on these improvements. So on these other bullets here, this just gives an idea of how we're looking to gain consensus among the developer teams and narrow our focus to where we think the high priority compatibility issues are, and then look at developing tests in those areas. So this is exploratory and scoping phase right now, but we anticipate the twig will be officially approved towards the end of this year. So we welcome and encourage everybody who's a storage developer and they're working on cause-related products to join us on both the Plugfest, but also the test tools efforts. Here, I'm gonna get it. Excuse me. So now let's look at near term and then far term. So right now, the current condition is multi-vendor compatibility. So why is this an issue? For example, as we said before, AWS S3 is a proprietary API, and third-party developers need to ensure their code operates with AWS S3 as it is, 24/7. So when changes are made, third parties like storage developers must make changes to maintain their compatibility. This, of course, may include use of different headers that are changed, or parameters, or even new features, but it may get into the space of behavioral change. And this is where things get problematic. So we have an analogy right here that there's a river, that's the icon there, and so the fact is rivers will go where they're going to go, and that's the fact. So when we look at relying on similarity, which is in the compatibility area, we're just feeling that that is not as precise and it's not as sufficient to meet the challenges we see. So our Plugfest team had a long discussion yesterday where we think we can build test tools that will very quickly detect the presence of breakage. So that's kind of one part, is to detect the breakage. But this is not solving the longer term issue of expediting more precise interoperability. So that's more of a proactive activity. So especially when this gets into the behavioral changes. So looking at the longer term, we do not believe we can make the progress on multi-vendor interoperability without proactive partnership and participation with the group originating the API. For example, AWS S3. So therefore, we are eager to welcome them, AWS S3, to join us in this effort. So we're very proactive, and we want to discuss their joining, and we've had some dialogue, and we'll have a little bit more coming up. On the right side, we're recommending shifting to well-known, established engineering practices, for example, creating the interoperability test tools, but we're not suggesting to slow AWS S3 down or change their ownership of their API or their IP or their roadmap. So what we're seeking from AWS S3 is support for our SNIA third-party developer community, so it's support. And this is to pool our resources so that we can attain first-class customer experience fully consistent with S3. So we want to have the same, exceptional operation, and that's our goal. So we're hoping that will be productive. And then just wrapping up on this one, so we believe precision in the test tools is a very keen part of what we need. Wrapping up, this is just a eye chart here. This is intended to show where we're at now. So we're in the initial team formation, the first block. Once we get approval, we'll get into initiating the first phases. And what's shown here is this wheel of innovation. And so we intend to get this started. It's going to be a little slow. But then as we build momentum, we're going to see that really start gaining ground. Adam?
Thank you, Michael. The wheel there, the founder of CleverSafe, where we were before we were acquired, Chris Gladwin, he always called it a flywheel, which is something, it's very heavy and hard to get started, but once it goes, it's very hard to stop. And so that's kind of, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing before we start pushing on that wheel. So to find out if we're doing the right thing, we have a kind of survey. This is available at snia.org/test-tool-survey. It's also available linked on these slides and Jeff and Frank's slides from earlier. And this is, the kind of idea of this is to paint a picture of the object storage ecosystem. The target audience for this is, a broad audience: SNIA members, storage providers, ISVs, open source, academia, engineering, and we want to hear from all of engineering, QA, support, and development. But most importantly, we do want to hear about end user experiences, customers, stuff like struggles and successes. Where is object storage and AWS compatible storage been a success? Where has it been a struggle? We want to know individual perspectives, like as a developer, I prefer doing X. And we also want to know organizational perspectives. We want to know specifically if people do compliance testing, interoperability testing, negative testing, things like that themselves, so we can learn from that. But to be clear, we really do want insights from everybody. We could have sat in the room, in the Plugfest room, and defined some things, but we're limited to the view of the people in that room and their experiences. So that's something that we definitely want to avoid. So this slide here, you're thinking to yourself, oh great, another tool. So here's how we aim to help things. First of all, this came from the SDC Plugfest. This is where we were all sitting in the room in September and we're like, this was a great experience. I really enjoyed this. We found bugs, and we found bugs in September, and we found bugs this week. So we know that it's like a value add as it is, but we all know that there's a struggle to get clients in the room. It's a struggle to get open source in the room. So if they can't attend, why not try to get their input and develop a test that might simulate their workflow? And so yesterday, we talked about the first real formal discussion of a minimum viable API spec. It's similar to the SMB core API operations. And the idea was we sat in a room with a whiteboard and we talked about what is the basic set of things to do things. And it turns out that was a difficult discussion because we all have different opinions about that. We can definitely agree on some things, but we found that from different perspectives, you have much greater requirements for one thing or the other. Hyperscaler clouds might not be the same as a migration-based client. So, we need to get that feedback and create this kind of API. And so we thought about this, and we thought about how we're going to need not only a common command set, but we might need actually to recommend best practices in terms of handling different behaviors, handling compliance, and this could be strictly formal compliance like SEC compliance, GDPR, stuff like that, or compliance as in compliance with the de facto API. And then obviously we want to focus on interoperability because that's the purpose of us all being here. An overall goal is to make people confident in their decisions when it regards to storage. It's always a risk when you move from one type of storage to the other, and we want to make sure that if people are considering moving to any of our storage, they have confidence when they're doing that. So this diagram here is an example, and this is how I originally envisioned this, this onion diagram. We're aiming for the bullseye. I mean, I'm mixing metaphors, but we're really looking for the things that everybody is using and how they're using, and to define this. So, like I said, we had a discussion yesterday, and originally when we proposed this group, we kind of had this idea of a hierarchical layer of compliance. So you'd have the base, and then you might build the secondary and tertiary or whatever. And we found that, we really couldn't agree on that, and I don't think it's as useful. And interestingly enough, if you were in the opening session talking about the UEC thing, is that we also, independently, did not see the slides, thought about profiles and compatibility matrices. So we decided provisionally that it might be better to structure these things as parts of a compatibility matrix and then have specific profiles for workflows. And this helps balance the technical complexity along with actual customer needs. So, you're not chasing the SNIA cost diamond level or whatever. You're just chasing your AI-driven workflow level or your backup level based on the profile. So I want to talk a little bit about the future activities here. Like Michael mentioned, we would love AWS to join. We believe that together as a community, we can create a better experience for customers and also the technical members of the community. Some of these bugs are kind of silly and take a lot of time and energy and costs customers and your own organization's time and money, obviously. So we think that together we can do this. We discussed having a reference client as well, or a reference server as well, based on the API described in the previous slide. That might be useful for actually proving the client test and the server match the same spec that we come up with. We also talked about, far off in the future, like Michael mentioned on previous slides, there's a lot of other Cloud Object Storage interfaces, and they have generally the same behavior for operations, but obviously they're not the same API. And we had a lot of people in the room here that attended the Plugfest that their kind of business is migrating from cloud to cloud or inter-cloud operability. And so obviously we are already starting to do some of this testing just by the nature of who's participating. And so interoperability beyond S3 is certainly a long-term goal. And obviously we want to just have a better, more harmonious object storage community. We're all kind of on the same team here because the reality is we live in a multi-cloud world. There's probably every person in this room has a customer that has multiple workflows on multiple clouds. And so some key takeaways here, so we have a little bit of time for questions, is that, we think that the test tools group and the Plugfest are a critical component and an incredible value for the resources from individual contributors and from companies. Like I said before, we found a bug. It doesn't matter if it's even trivial. It probably if this saves one customer, it's going to offset the cost of all of us attending. So it's certainly a value that you could reflect up to your management chain. We definitely need a diverse set of participants from all different parts of the stakeholders. If it's just hyperscalers, it's going to look completely different if it was on-prem, or if it's just people involved with AI workflows, it's going to look different for people that have generic or backup or something like that. So that's an important thing, and it's certainly a call for participation in this effort. And then we believe that this is kind of the beginning of building a community for cloud object storage or cloud storage in general, kind of anchored here. In the Plugfest, we've had a lot of really great discussions, and the fact that SNIA is a vendor neutral and safe space for us to have those discussions has really built bridges that were not there before. And there's not really a conference or a venue for this kind of like participation in the industry. They're all kind of oriented to other things, your DEF CONs, your Kubernetes and that kind of stuff. So there's not really a big thing for the storage community. And so I think that this is kind of the foundation of the Plugfest and the test tools. But then I just want to highlight the goal is to make it better for end users. That's the number one thing. We're all driven by customers. They impact our bottom line, and it's just better for everybody involved. So with that, I think we have 4 minutes left for questions. Do we have any? Was that good?
Yeah.
Gary?
How are the different versions of S3 protocol and interfaces going to be coordinated between the vendors? Is there going to be an identifier that we're going to have for particular versions?
So are you talking about like per operation version? The question was, how are the different versions going to be handled per vendor?
Different profiles.
Well, this is profiles of the S3 protocol.
Okay. So I can answer that as it's undefined currently. But if you look back at this slide here, the little river diagram, the river is never the same twice because it's constantly flowing. And so if we have this MVP API and we observe AWS's changes, we could potentially take a view at a certain date and say that as of this date, you may have this functionality, this behavior, and the tools can evolve with that. Since AWS doesn't really explicitly version their API, and everything's considered to be backward compatible. If you're interested in that, Frank and Jeff's talked a little bit more of that. But we have to figure out a way to do this. And this is the thing that jumps out, but it's up to discussion. We're very much in the embryonic state here. So, and I don't claim to be an expert on versioning of APIs.
Perfect thing to add to the survey. So we're looking for that feedback. Thank you.
So yeah, and I think here, this final slide, this has got, we're planning the Plugfest in September. It'll be in Santa Clara. If you are interested in this, you can join the community. You do not have to be a SNIA member to join the TWIG currently.
The Plugfest.
Well, and the TWIG, because it's provisional.
Because it's provisional, that's correct. Yeah.
Once it is fully recognized by the TC, then you will have to be a SNIA member to participate because there's under certain guidelines. But if you want to influence what we choose, then participating is paramount. Any other questions? All right, you guys have a good afternoon.